If you like all-in combo decks, then you're gonna like Adamancipator Sprights. What is up, guys? This is tcgsam here, and in today's video, I'm coming at you guys with a deck profile for an Adamancipator Spright list. For the new format, supposed to Photon Hypernova, this deck can definitely compete with the top meta decks out there and doesn't necessarily lose to cards like Kashtira or Rise Herd, which could be really popular. So I think this deck can be a really good option if you like combo decks and you want to play something rogue. But why don't we just get into it and I'll show you guys what we're playing. So we're gonna start things off with 3 copies of Adamancipator Researcher. This is the best Adamancipator because it has the effect to where you can summon itself if you control a rock monster, and then the tuner Adamancipator monsters all have the same effect where you can activate the top 5 cards of your deck and special summon 1 level 4 or lower non-tuner rock monster that was excavated. So that's how you keep extending past there and making those like synchro plays or XDs or link plays. For the other miners, we're playing 3 copies of Seeker. Seeker's extension effect is a little bit worse because you have to specifically control an Adamancipator monster. It's not as generic. But of course, you do want to max on it because you do want to see it and actually use this effect to start excavating the top cards of your deck. That's how you start playing. And then finally, we're playing 3 copies of Analyzer as well. Same idea as Seeker, even though its extension effect is a bit worse than Researcher. Going second, it can be really good to just special summon a free level 4 out, and then it's very threatening because you can activate some dangerous rock monsters that they'll have to answer. So yeah, triple Analyzer as well. You just want to max on them because you always want to see them. Your best hands are like hands with like multiple of these, so you just want to guarantee yourself to be able to see it as much as possible. And then I'm playing 1 copy of Adamancipator Crystal Dragite. Dragite's effect is when a special summon, you get to draw a card, and then in the graveyard I can recycle like a water synchro monster. The reason I'm playing this at 1 is because the water typing is pretty important, but also like it's one of the best hits to hit off of your Adamancipators. Just being able to draw a card and then giving yourself an Adamancipator name for something like Seeker, but also like a rock monster for a Researcher, as well as like a water monster, which is important for certain cards in the deck. So you definitely want to play at least 1. We do have ways to stack it to the top of the deck. So yeah. For the other non-tuner rock monsters now, we're playing 3 copies of Supplier. Supplier is pretty great because if you draw it, every time a rock monster is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it to the field, and then when it's special summoned, you can add a Quackimero monster from your deck to your hand except itself. So that helps you get more advantage to your hand, but also Trick gives you a level 4 body when you summon it off of your Adamancipators. So you get more advantage and you can keep comboing from there. And then the target we are playing for Supplier is 3 copies of Guardian. This is probably one of the best cards in the deck. Just being able to summon it off any of the Adamancipators means now you have either a monster like a good monster negate on your opponent's turn, or you have a way to insulate yourself from a card like Nibiru or other hand traps on your turn. So being able to summon out multiple miners, summon out a card like Guardian, protect yourself from those hand traps means you can just combo uninterrupted most of the time. And of course, hard drawing it isn't like the worst either because you do have extenders like Adamancipator Researcher to summon itself. One of the other non-tuner rocks we're playing is 3 copies of Doki Doki. Doki Doki is another one of those great rock monsters to hit off the Adamancipators because on the field you're able to discard a rock monster and special summon 1 from your deck with the same original level and attribute. So for example, if you draw like the non-tuner rock monsters, you can discard them to summon out a card like Analyzer and get your tuner play started. Or if you start with like a tuner, you can discard them and summon a non-tuner if you need to get into your synchro plays. So Doki Doki is very flexible, and like I mentioned, since we are playing the Spright cards, like level 2s are just really good in this deck, and Doki Doki is one of the best rock level 2s. Another really good rock level 2 is Kathorhin. So this effect, you can discard in your hand to normal summon an earth or water monster in addition to your extra normal summons. So it can be good if your normal summon gets stopped, or if your miners just misses when you start with it, because you can just get another body on board and keep playing. But in the graveyard, if you control a water and a earth monster, you can special summon itself back as a level 2 extender. And since we are playing Spright cards, that is really good. And that's also why we play like cards like the Dragite and more copies of itself, so we are able to get more water monsters onto the board to use to make the most out of its effects. So that's a grand total of, I believe, 13 non-tuner rock monsters, meaning our Adamancipators have a pretty decent chance to hit them, and you want to maximize that chance as much as possible because there is some element of luck in this deck, and if you do miss with the miners, it is a little unfortunate, and that can hinder your plays. So you do want to max out on all the good rock monsters as much as possible. And then we're playing for the extenders 2 copies of Signs and 1 copy of Reborn. This could hypothetically be 3 copies of Signs because the Adamancipator name actually matters for one of the extra deck monsters. But I figured Reborn was a little bit more generic. You can bring back sprites or like your opponent's monsters. I think having these extenders are good because you're just synchroing and linking off so often. Being able to bring something back can be really good to keep climbing. But also it's just a great extender as well and follow-up play. So I think these are really good for that reason. Adamancipator Signs, like I mentioned earlier, does allow you to stack like a rock on top of your deck, so you're able to guarantee that your miners actually hit when you use their effects. So that's gonna do it for the Adamancipator and the rock engine. And now moving on to the sprite engine, we're playing a 6-card sprite package, essentially just very compact. And I think this is really all you need in the deck at minimum. 1 blue, 1 jet, 1 carrot, 1 red, 1 starter, and 1 double cross. So blue and jet, of course, are like the best ones. Like those are ones that are pretty good to hard draws because like you have a bunch of level 2s in your deck. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to be accessing them with Gigantic Sprite later on in your combo. But essentially what the sprites add to this deck is once you're able to do your regular combos, any level 2s gets you like so much advantage. Gets you like an IP, gets you like double cross or starter. And not to mention, like, if you hard draw these guys, like, you can grab, like, red and carrot as, like, extra negates to supplement your end board. So, sprites just add, like, a whole another dimension to this deck and raises the ceiling of it a lot. And it gives it, like, a really good backbone play to fall back on, even if your luck is really bad with this deck. So, I think this engine is perfect. You can absolutely play more. I would recommend, like, if you want to play more, you can play, like, more copies of blue, because blue is probably the best one to hard draw. With any level 2, you can special summon it, special summon, like, a red, protect yourself from hand traps, or special summon jet, and, like, just play sprites, like, from there as well. Another quick thing, double cross, I played this over Smashers because I found in testing that double cross just was live way more often. First of all, like, if you don't have access to like your sprite engine and hard draw Smashers or double cross, at least with double cross you can make it live by summoning a Masquerena. But in addition, you're rarely ending on like too many level or link 2s on the board that you aren't linking off with like a card like Masquerena or attributing for red or carrot. So I think being able to have double cross means like it's just going to be live more often and it's more convenient for you to actually have as an interruption. The only downside to this over a card like Smashers is a little better going second, but I figured that most of the time like it wouldn't really matter too much anyways, so I think this was fine. So yeah, the 6-card sprite engine, pretty compact, but like I said, that's really all you need. And then moving on to the non-engine now, this is completely up to personal preference. I sort of went the route of like good standalone cards to draw as like one-ofs because we don't have space for that many non-engine cards. Just so if you see one, I wanted it to be really high impact. So I'm playing 3 copies of Eclipse, 3 copies of Talents, so good going first, going second card. And then finally 3 copies of Imperm as like our hand trap, but also really good as like a going second card as well. But like I said, this is totally up to personal preference and it's going to depend on what your local meta is. You can play a card like Ash Blossom, but like I said, I wanted the non-engine in my deck to be as high impact as possible. Alright, so moving on to the extra deck. Starting off with the Synchros, we are playing a copy of Adamancipator Risen Raptite. Raptite's effect has the effect to excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, but this time you can special summon any rock monster that you excavate, which is really great because you can summon the tuners and keep going from there, whereas the tuners can't summon each other. It also has the effect of if you have a wind monster in your graveyard, it acts as a quick effect DD Crow, but that doesn't really come up that often. Next up, I play 1 copy of Leonite. So Leonite is excavate the top 5 cards of your deck and add an Adamancipator card from your deck, from those excavated cards to your hand. So that's why I said if you want to play 3 copies of Signs, you can maximize your chances of hitting something good off of it. It also has the effect of Reborn a rock monster during your opponent's turn if there's a fire monster in the graveyard. And that has really good synergy with a card like Quackimira Guardian because it attributes itself to negate. So what you can do is negate, activate Leonite, summon it back, and you have another negate right there because Guardian is not once per turn. A card like Ash Blossom can be used to make the fire attribute live, but we're not really looking to do that. And then the last Adamancipator Synchro is Dragite. So Dragite is really good. It's good going second because if you activate the top 5 cards of your deck, you're able to return cards your opponent controls to the hand up to the number of activated rock monsters. So it doesn't target, and it gets rid of any card, not just monsters. And since it works with like any rock card in your deck, like, well, we said we had 13 non-tuner rocks, and we had 9 tuner rock monsters. So over half of our deck essentially is like rock monsters we can hit off of this. But perhaps most importantly, if you have a water monster in your grave during either player's turn, it's a spell or trap negate. So this helps you play around board breakers like Evenly Matched and Book of Eclipse, which can be really important. So not only does this deck have like built-in monster negate with like Quackmare Guardian, but it also has built-in spell and trap negate with Dragon, which is also why we want to max out the water monsters. And then I play 1 copy of Arclight. You definitely don't have to play this. I like having the option of just having a Synchro 4 because this also gives you a way to play around hand traps on your turn 1. If you aren't able to get a copy of Guardian out, or you have to use the Guardian in your combo. I think Arclight is also great against certain matchups as well, where it's continuous effect and actually just kind of screw them over a lot. So I think being able to end on Arclight can be really good in those matchups as well. And then finally, for the last Synchro monster, 1 copy of Crystal Wing. Since you are going into like your level 6s a lot to keep comboing, you're gonna be ending on like the level 2 tuners plus these a lot, and these can just turn to Crystal Wing, which is a really great monster negation. So that's going to do it for the Synchro monsters. And now for the Link monsters, we're playing 1 copy of IP Masquerena. So even if you are locked into Gigantic Spright, you can still end on this, and that's a great interruption. And it's a really good one paired with a card like Pit Knight Early. So Pit Knight Early, essentially, once you have a setup like this, whenever the monster Pit Knight Early points to activates the effect, it can chain itself to negate the effects of one face-up monster opponent controls and change its attack to 0. So essentially like an additional infinite impermanence on top. And that can just either protect your Masquerena or give you that extra form of interruption that you need. It's just a really great like Link 2 that's that you can make while under Gigantic Spright. So I think pairing these two up is actually really good. And then we're playing 1 copy Unicorn. You can make this, of course, but it's mainly to summon off IP Masquerena as a disruption on your opponent's turn. And the same idea with Appaloosa. You could hypothetically make it, but it's just another option with a card like IP Masquerena to link into on your opponent's turn. So now moving on to these monsters, 1 copy of Gigantic Spright. Gigantic Spright is really great for your combo because even if you don't have any single Spright cards, like you have level 2s in your Adamancipators and your Rock monsters, so you're pretty much always going to be able to look to make this at the end of your combo, just because the Spright monsters give you that extra like layer of disruption, whether it's through Carrot or Red or through Double Cross, and I think that's really important to have access to. You could play 2 if you really want to, and there is space in this extra deck to do so if you want. I am playing 1 copy of Centauria and Downer Magician. Centauria should just be the Ninja Shadow Mosquito. I don't have the card, but essentially the idea is like you have level 2s in the deck, you have Sprite cards in the deck. If you just summon that monster, you can like just threaten a Zeus, and Zeus can force out interruptions going second. So yeah, speaking of Zeus, we are playing Zeus, of course, and Downer just gives you that extra material that you need. So yeah, this should be Ninja Shadow Mosquito because it has a few more applications than Centauria, but the idea is still the same, and the purpose of those cards is the same as well. We are playing 1 copy Gallant Granite. It's really great. It's a generic rank 4 that searches a rock monster from your deck to your hand. So most of the time, the ones you're going to be searching is Researcher, because you're just able to special summon itself out since you control a Gallant Granite, and you can keep playing from there. You may have noticed that was only 14 cards in the extra deck, and that's on purpose. So the last card can really be anything you want. It can be a card like Access Code Talker. It can be a card like Underworld Goddess from the Closed World. It could be a second copy of Gigantic Spright. Like, it's completely up to you. There's just so many options that I wasn't really too sure what to put. But out of the ones I recommended, I would personally probably go with a card like the second copy of Gigantic Spright, but that's just personal preference. If you guys enjoyed this profile, let me know by leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing. I will be posting a test hand video for this deck very soon after this, so if you want to learn how to play the deck, do stay tuned for that. Also, if you want to see me take this to a tournament and see how I do, then leave that in the comment section below and I'll get onto it. But with that being said, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.